Welcome to the Cleaning Up Business Podcast. My name's Chris Guilfoyle and I'm going to be your host. In every episode, we're hoping to bring you industry leaders from a wide variety of service sectors, disruptors within their industry, and day-to-day entrepreneurs with some business and life lessons for you guys to take away. Let's jump in to today's episode. Why do you think the industry is so unattractive to young people?
People are not going to like this. And he said, well, what do you want to do about it? We have an ambassador program. We'd love you to be an ambassador. How can I judge cleanliness if I don't understand the process that's behind it? I love my job. I absolutely love what I'm doing.
Did you ever think of giving up?
Yeah, it was a bit difficult.
Anyone can get into it and do well if you've got the right mindset.
Watching it thinking, this is the power of what we do.
How can the cleaning industry do more to attract younger people?
Okay, now I'm going to check that you know how to do your job.
Just think, how have we got there? Welcome back to another episode of the Cleaning Up Business Podcast with me, Chris Guilfoyle. Today, I have another guest with me. I have Kelsey Hardgreaves with me. Kelsey is a youth ambassador at Youth Employment UK and is now the technical specialist at BICS, which is the British Institute of Cleaning Science, an organisation within the cleaning industry. So, Kelsey, thank you for coming on the podcast today. It's nice to have a younger person on the podcast with me. No offence to all the other guys that have come on. They've been great as well. So, I always go back to early days with our guests before they got into the cleaning industry. So tell us and the listeners a little bit about yourself, what you've done before you got into the cleaning industry.
Yeah, of course. So left college, did my first degree in Canterbury, so nice and close to you.
Nice and local.
Yeah. Did it in religion and philosophy.
Okay.
Finished that, decided to go and do a master's. Did it in
the same subject?
No, did it in scientific philosophy.
Okay.
Completely different.
Why did you want to go into those subjects in the first place?
Honest answer, I'm good at arguing.
Note to self.
It was just something about teaching other people and making information like accessible.
Yeah.
Taking like big ideas and putting it out there in sort of a new form. I quite enjoyed it. And I'd grown up without having an understanding of anything like that. So it was interesting. Went and did that, finished my master's, but during that took a job in the local hospital and started in the cleaning industry and then...
Nice and quick, straight in.
Never turned back.
Yeah. Uni, how did you find that experience?
For me, I've always been put in like the academic bracket.
Okay.
So I guess I found it a bit easier than most people do. But I was always afraid of the practical side of things. Right. So because when you're a young person, especially at school now, you're either hands-on or you're academic. Sure, so no one ever shows you the practical side. So it was like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm going to carry on with this. And it was like, I never knew what job to get after. So for me, it was like, I'll just do another degree. Yeah. Or I'll just carry on with education.
Okay.
Because there was no real, there wasn't any job offers even outside of that for a young person. So it was a bit difficult. And then when I took the cleaning side of things and it was a practical job, I was thinking, oh gosh.
This is not a bit of me.
This is completely different to what I've been told I'm actually good at.
Yeah.
And then I started essentially developing, growing within that and thought, I quite enjoy this and I seem to be doing all right. Yeah. So maybe we'll have a look at the more practical side of the working life. And
what made you pick? It's a common thing because obviously you get a lot of young people that come into the cleaning industry, surprisingly, especially at that time of their life where they're in uni and they're in between jobs or they're just looking for something part-time because the cleaning is great to facilitate that type of role, isn't it? What made you, tell me about the process of applying for a cleaning role and going into that. What was it? Did you have a preconception about it? Like, it's cleaning, I don't really want to go into that?
So I've always cleaned throughout uni to help support myself. It was just like little jobs on the side of like things like in the summer and stuff like that. So that was fine. My actual reason for applying, I needed money to support my master's. And obviously at the time, it was the COVID-19 pandemic and a hospital was like guaranteed employment at the time. I started off as a temperature checker.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
So you did all scanning done?
Actually, beep, beep, beep every day. And then they offered me cleaning hours to help out. And I was like, well,
I'll take it.
It's a job. And everyone seemed lovely. And obviously at the time you had people were getting recognised as heroes, especially, within the NHS, there was like a newfound respect, I guess, for the cleaning side of things. So I just sort of applied. I had a bit of knowledge from things I'd done before, maybe not necessarily the right knowledge from, different trainings that I'd had in previous years. But yeah, I took that and then moved into sort of more compliance to do with cleaning, but still helped with the actual cleaning of the hospital.
What was the experience like working in a hospital during COVID?
Oh, something that I don't think I'll ever forget or in some ways get over. I think thrown in at the deep end is definitely like the phrase that I use all the time.
I think that's fitting.
Yeah, especially like, you know, you're a young person, you've seen things that you never thought you'd see before. And even things like, you know, walking down a hospital corridor and there's like a bed coming through.
Yeah.
For someone that's never really been in hospital, you know, I'm lucky enough to never have had treatment or anything like that. And seeing all of that stuff is a bit, this is crazy. And then you've got people that you're responsible for, people that you're trying to explain what to do, processes changing every single day because of government guidelines. And it was just, I'm only just getting to grips with what the cleaning side's supposed to be. And then we're changing PPE, we're changing practice. And you've got over 100 cleaning staff that are asking questions that you don't know the answer to and nobody does. But it was also an amazing experience. And most of my friends that I have now are from there because you join together in that and you find respect and a friendship for people that I haven't got with other people.
When you're on big cleaning sites, there's lots of camaraderie with the team anyway. And especially in such a, you know, unique experience as COVID, which was definitely a once in a lifetime experience for the industry. How hard was the cleaners working during that time? Do you think we really got the recognition we deserved during that period?
We definitely did not get the recognition.
Totally
and I think, you know, I was in, especially the hospital side, I was in the nicer side where people were getting a little bit of recognition, not what they deserved. Yeah. But you think about all the other parts of the industry that, you know, healthcare cleaning operatives had to like, they already had a bit of knowledge how to deal with infections and things like that. Yeah. Whereas all these people that, you know, are in like shopping malls, are in supermarkets, or on transport, or out going to people's houses, even like, you know, domestic cleaning ops, they've not dealt with this before. And then they had to sort of pick it up overnight and carry on doing their job. You know, when all over the news, people are saying, stay at home, stay away from people. And these people are getting sent in to go and clean all of this stuff and still not being recognised when they're putting their own lives at risk to help everybody else.
Still, we had obviously Jim Melvin on a few episodes ago and still a travesty to today, to be honest. But we won't dwell on that too much because I know there's a bigger movement going on with that, with Jim and the stuff he's doing with the BCC. So you tell us a little bit, you're working in your cleaning and you start coming into compliance side. Tell us what goes on after that.
So I went into the compliance side, doing like audits and things like that.
Just make sure the cleaning standards are where they need to be.
Making sure it was all in line with like the NHS policy, working with like infection control teams and the nursing side of things. And it was a bit of an eye opener, you know, like things that you don't even expect that need to be cleaned. And then the next minute I'm like on the warpath, trying to make sure they're cleaned. And then as we moved through that, I'd been there for about a year and they started bringing in training and things like that because obviously the world realised that cleaning staff needed training and they needed some sort of respect and some sort of progression. So at the hospital I worked at, they brought in training. And at the time I was thinking,
more training.
I've not got time for this. Yeah. We're trying to like set policies in place and trying to implement things that the government want. I haven't got time to get involved with this, but it was sort of bubbling away. And obviously at the time, as you'll know, people were leaving. People didn't want to work in the cleaning industry because they weren't getting paid fairly because there wasn't any money there. Money was getting pumped into PPE for every other profession and things like that. And training was the only thing we could offer. And I was thinking, people are not going to like this. We're like, yeah, thanks for going. We're just going to give you a bit of training.
We're going to show you how to clean.
Yeah, it's just a bit like, you know, these people have been the heroes for us and have worked tirelessly every day, you know, doing extra hours, coming in, putting themselves at risk in a lot of weird situations that we all had to deal with. And then my answer to that is, okay, now I'm going to check that you know how to do your job. It's a bit of it felt like it was going to be a bit of a kick in the teeth.
Yeah, I agree. I can get that.
Yeah. So they brought the training in and it was unbelievable, the difference it made. People felt respected. People loved it. And it wasn't a break, but it was something they felt more assured in themselves that I am doing the right thing and I do know what I'm on about. And I'm getting some recognition for it. Yeah,
it's an interesting one, training, because I think with it being such a low barrier to entry industry, you know, it's quite easy to, you know, oh, well, everyone that you get it when you do interviews. Oh, have you done cleaning before? Oh yeah, I've cleaned at home loads of times, you know, and there is a substantial difference between when you're in like a hospital environment or something like that and the level of cleanliness you need, you know, cross-contamination, etc. We started a new dental practice last night, and even something down to as small as that, you know, make sure you got the right colour coding in clinical areas, etc. When you actually get a recognised qualification, and we'll use BICS in that instance because obviously that's where you work, you know, it does add value to what the staff do. Massively, you know, if you've got something like that in place.
Yeah. I mean, even for us, like I always talk about like the churn rate of our staff at the time. Obviously the pandemic, people were leaving, people wanted to go. We put BICS in, BICS came in, trained us, and people stopped leaving. People were more interested in applying or moving over to our side of things. So people were like changing job roles with inside the hospital. And, you know, before I'd been like, come on, we need to go and do hand hygiene. It'd be like, oh, I've got this bed to clean, or I've got this ward to clean. And then as soon as like we brought BICS in and it was this accredited training, they were getting something for themselves and getting recognition, people would be like coming up to me, I want to do my assessment tomorrow. Is that okay? Or can I book myself onto this? And I remember sitting there thinking, this is unbelievable. Yeah. And when it did happen, it was a case of me going to our on-site BICS person and being like, I want to be trained. I want to understand what's going on. I can see the difference. I can see the difference in levels. And people just happier coming in and walking around with the badges and like, you know, for over a year and a half of people coming in, not miserable, but in a bad place, in a tough place, to then like this complete change of dynamic to people being excited coming into training sessions. It was amazing to see.
Like you say, you've got, you know, if you've got a recognised qualification that you do and it sort of, you know, rubber stamps that you're professional in industry that you're in, whatever industry that is, and cleaning should be no different. And it's crazy that we get companies that operate without that. So BICS come in, obviously you wasn't working for BICS then. Just explain that process. How did they pinch you?
So they came in, they trained us up. I went up to assessor level. It helped with like the assurance side of things. Obviously, how can I judge cleanliness if I don't understand the process that's behind it? And it was also nice because you're in a role where you're constantly like, this isn't great, this could be better. But now we'd had the same training from, you know, from the starting process up, from that license to practice up. And I could see where they were, and they all watched me doing my assessments and stuff. It was amazing. So after we did that, we basically were given a timeline to put everybody through, and it was tough. Yeah. You know, you've got your own job to do. You're in the middle of a pandemic, all these changing things. And now you've got told that you've got to put over 100 people through just on one site through this. And there was other assessors, and we all sort of came together. And then it was just organisation like crazy. And then, you know, it's like people go off, people go on holiday, and you're trying to get numbers through. And then I was looking at other jobs at the time. I think I'd told myself like, I love the industry. I love this, but I needed to get out of that hospital setting. I wanted to get out of that part of the industry and maybe experience a different part, because I loved the hospital and I knew that I would stay there because I loved the job, but I wanted to see if there was another part of the industry that fit for me. Yeah. So I mentioned it to somebody at BICS, and then as luck would have it, a few months later, they'd put a job up online. And I was like, well,
it's made to be.
I don't know whether I'm the right fit for it, but I'll give it a go. And then obviously because of the healthcare background that I'd had and that hands-on experience during that time obviously helped. Yeah. So I joined BICS as an assistant technical specialist.
What does that involve? What did that role involve?
Well, I first thought it was just training, which I was very excited about. But then it was like a lot of using my own knowledge and experience of healthcare and helping that side of things develop. Okay. And then just helping people with projects and things like that, you know, anything from like compliance related stuff to audits again, to a hands-on training here and internationally, and then getting involved with other projects that they want to get involved in, you know, like a lot of joining up and celebrating other associations and things like that. And as somebody that had worked operationally, obviously it helps me tell them, well, I didn't know about this when I was on the ground, or this is what I think. And it's been really great. And it's been like a collaboration in BICS of like, so this is your experience. How can we help change things, and how can we help the industry?
I think I always say on the podcast, I think that for me, you can come into the industry at many different levels, obviously. But I think the best people from my experience are from the bottom up, generally. You know, that they've been on the ground, they understand the challenges that comes with, and they've learned the industry at the coalface and then developed up. And I think it's a fantastic industry for that. And you're clearly a testament to that. Yeah. So the youth employment side of things, you're now with BICS. You're obviously going through doing your training, traveling internationally. Lucky, I always say. How did you get involved with that youth employment side, and where did you start to recognise that there's an issue in the cleaning industry? I'll say it. I don't have to get you to say it, get you in trouble. There is an issue within the cleaning industry about it. One, not being attractive, and getting younger talent into the industry is notoriously difficult. When did you sort of realise that there was an issue with that?
So obviously we go to a lot of conferences, things like that. We go to a lot of like networking events. Yep. I think my first ever cleaning show, it was on the Weird Year where we were in London, I think in the November instead of the March. And I was like stood on the stand looking around thinking, I am by far like one of the youngest people here. And it was great because I was like, oh, I'm doing good. Yeah. But then it was just a bit like, oh, I'm used to obviously in my like academic side of things, at the uni side, it was like everybody was the same age. You were like comfortable. And I was like looking around thinking, it's a bit strange. You know, you expect young people to be in like the sales roles that you'll see on the stands, or you knew people coming through. And there was a few people, which was good. But it wasn't an issue, you know, still got treated with respect by people. That was great. And then one day I was out on a site doing some project work, and there was myself there, a lovely receptionist, an amazing guy using a scrubber dry better than I've ever seen anybody, and the person that I was supposed to be meeting. So I got there, I said, hi, I'm Kelsey, I'm from BICS, I'm here to do whatever. And she said, oh, I'll just call him. So she said, like, the lady's here from BICS. And he came down to the reception and I was like, ready. And he literally looked straight past me and even looked outside. And I was like, logoed up, you know, ready, excited. And there was like only us four in the building. And I was a bit like, oh. And I said, hi, I think you're looking for me. I'm Kelsey. Yeah. And he was like, oh, okay. So, you know, the red hair is not a lie. Yeah. Did the work. I came back. I rang my manager at BICS and I explained what had happened. I said it was fine. You know, there was nothing horrible said. It was just a bit of a... Yeah. Because I'm used to walking in and somebody's already seen me from like whatever. And he said, well, what do you want to do about it? I was a bit like... And he said, you've said this before that, you know, there isn't a lot of younger people in the industry, especially in like when we go to networking events and things like that. What do you want to do about it? Is there anything that you can think that will attract younger people or will get people to understand how we can attract younger people? So I was looking online and everything else, and I found Youth Employment UK, and I got in touch with them basically to link our training with them. I wanted to link BICS because we have a lot of free courses and stuff. And I thought maybe if we can put that on the website, it might attract some people thinking, oh, I've never thought about that sort of a job. And they got in touch and said, you know, I'd spoken about half an hour about the industry and they were like, this is what we need. You need somebody that's going to shout about the opportunities. We have an ambassador program. We'd love you to be an ambassador. So I went and did that and then got involved with their side of things, sort of getting young people interested, getting a young person's voice heard in all industries. But obviously I'm talking from the cleaning industry side. So I've spoken at Parliament before, which is amazing.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was a great experience, but it was nice to stand there and say, this is my experience and I'm somebody from the cleaning industry, and open up that dialogue. And then from that, obviously people have asked questions like yourself. And then I've been given the opportunity to be able to talk about it and give top tips about how I think young people may come into the industry, because obviously times change even in the youth side of things. I mean, I left formal education 7 years ago, like at 18. And I don't even know half of the opportunities that are out there. And I'm somebody that's only just left, you know? So it was like, instead of thinking about how we came in, why don't we look at what young people have, what their experience is now, and how we can actually relate to that instead.
Why do you think the industry is so unattractive to young people?
I think it's like just ideas that they have. You know, they have experience of their mums, their dads, their grandmas, and you have this preconceived idea of a lady with a mop, you know, and it not being a professional sort of career or without any progression. People automatically think low wage. And I think a lot of people just think that the clean industry is just about the clean, you know, it's just about the clean operatives. And even though that is the biggest part of our industry and the most important part, there are actually other jobs out there jobs that we don't even think of. Like I never knew my job existed 4 or 5 years ago, you know? And I think as soon as you have a preconceived idea about something, it's hard to break the boundaries, especially when there's nobody there talking to you saying, there is actually this available, or, you know, join now and you could be at this. And I think there's a big push. Like I've spoken a lot about when I left college, I wanted to go to university. I wanted to do a lecturing job. That was the big dream. And it was like, okay, you want to do that. This is what you need to do. Do this, 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 and you'll get where you need to go. Whereas with the cleaning industry, there wasn't really anything like that.
There is nothing.
No, you don't go in and go, okay, I want to be an FM manager. And they go, okay, look at this place for this course. Go and do this, get this experience, add this to your CV. Here are some like words that you should think about understanding, or here is some knowledge you should have. And there was nothing out there. And we're at that age where you want to be told how to get to where you need to go. And if there's not that there, not many people are going to go out of their way to try and find that information, especially when they don't know where to start looking.
How can the cleaning industry, or us as an industry, do more to attract younger people? How can we make ourselves more attractive?
I think make the information more accessible. You know, actually share your own story. And we hear all the time people saying, I never thought I would end up in the industry, but I did. It's just the wrong thing to say. You know, I didn't want to be in the industry, or I never thought this would be my first choice.
Fell into it by accident.
Yeah. And it's just not the right terminology. We need to talk about why people have stayed in the industry, because as soon as you start with, I never wanted to be, or I didn't think I would, it's like straight away we're putting a negative side of it, basically saying like, even I didn't want to do it. But we've all stayed for a reason. So look, we need to share that. I think we also need to shout about the amazing things we do. And we are constantly put into boxes of other industries. We're very rarely recognised as the cleaning industry. We're recognised as this part of hospitality or this part of this. We need to recognise that we are actually a massive industry, and we have all of these opportunities, and we're going ahead with sustainability. We're going ahead with amazing career development, and we're really fighting for younger people. You know, if you think about like the apprenticeship and stuff like that, we're trying to attract more new people, but we need to actually shout about ourselves positively instead of, I never thought I would end up here.
I sit with this all the time, especially some of the social stuff we do. And, you know, I get positive comments, I get negative comments about it. I feel like the industry is a bit of a closed shop. Like for some reason, we don't want to shout about ourselves, or, you know, cleaning companies general, they're very, you know, inbound, and don't, you know, we're not networking or shouting about the industry. And I can never really get my head around why that is. It's still, I feel, quite a closed shop industry. And I totally agree with you. And that's why we do the podcast. That's why we do a lot of our social stuff, is to say, actually, this is what the industry is about. This is what goes on. And like, I think of my own journey, you know, I started as a cleaning supervisor. I had a job I wanted to do. My mum and dad have always been in the industry. I've had a good life from my mum and dad working in the industry. And I've been some fantastic places, met some fantastic people, and you can be literally okay, you might have to start at the ground level, which is fine, because some of the best times I've had, I've been at that level. But there's so many different areas you can go into. It's truly amazing. I'd love to list it all out and say, right, these are the different jobs you could go into. And I think people don't know about that. What skills do you think you need to go into the cleaning industry?
I think a work ethic, definitely, the top one. I think there's so many, like we've said, there's so many different roles within the industry that there's not really set things, and there's transferable skills from everything. You know, we've talked about how it's great to start in operations and work your way up, but there's no reason why somebody with a marketing degree can't come in and join. And well, there we go. Like there's so many different roles, even roles that I don't even know. And when you meet someone, you think, oh yeah. That's a whole other career. I think definitely a good work ethic. Respect is a big thing in this industry. And I think because we are so used to like not having respect from outside of the industry, you need to come into this, not with an open mind, but with an understanding of just how amazing the industry is and the people are that work in it. An ability to learn. As you know, the industry changes
all the time.
All the time. You know, what we were talking about like last year is now not relevant, and we've moved on as an industry and innovation and everything else. So an ability to keep up with those changes. But I'd say work ethic and respect are the biggest ones. And other skills, any skills that you have are transferable. I mean, I was arguing about like Greek philosophers and now like I've used those skills that be wanting to make things accessible to help teach people how to clean.
Yeah.
And there's still that love for learning there. There's still that love of making things accessible and sharing knowledge. It's just not necessarily what I studied for 4 years. It's a different skill set.
Yeah.
We have somebody that's just started at BICS and she did a drama degree.
Okay.
And she said that she uses all of those skills that she learned, all of those, like, you know, being able to talk to people and things like that, and also almost performing in a sense, all of that side of training, but also in the technical knowledge of being able to learn things quickly and get out information in a new way.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible to see all of these different careers coming in. And, you know, when we say people didn't expect to be in the industry, they've transferred their skills in some way. So that's what I'm trying to do at the moment, is change the dialogue of, you've got this, great. Let's show you where you fit in the industry and what you can get out of the industry.
I think for me, the number one thing you said is hard work, you know, and I think that's transferable to any industry, but the Cleaning Pacific, I think if you've got a passion and a drive to do a good job, everything else you can pick up. And I think, you know, you've got so many different people from different walks of life with different skills, and you pick up, there's so many influential people that I've met along my journey that have affected how I work today. And that's the positive part of the industry. And I think it goes back to that barrier to entry. You know, anyone can get into it and do well if you've got the right mindset. So for those of the people that don't know what BICS is, can you tell me what BICS is? Because we mentioned it a few times, or what they do. Yeah,
so BICS is a training and membership organisation. We have, I need to get the numbers right now, I think over 55,000 members worldwide. And basically our mission is about protecting the operative and, you know, offering them everything we can, preserving assets, being about sustainability, all of that sort of stuff, and sort of just being that educational body that can help people move forward. We do other things, you know, on the side, but it's all about driving like the industry forward and just helping people within the industry. You know, whether it's through training or just through sharing information that's relevant.
I think, like you say, that recognised, you know, accredited training. Oh, we're sure we've got our BICS up there. That just surprisingly how much weight that holds with cleaning operatives. And people probably don't know that you can go for a recognised training. So what does recognised training via BICS look like? Can you give me a little run through about that?
Yeah, so if we go through like the accredited training model, so we start off with a license to practice, and we call it like a passport to a career in the cleaning industry. And what that is, it's basically all about the starting process, making sure people are safe in their jobs, making sure they're getting the best practice that they can. So it covers things like chemical competency, all of like the compliance documents, you know, risk assessments, cost assessments, all of that sort of stuff, dilution, and machinery and all of that.
Dilution? Well, it's not just plug it in. That's
no, it's not just a quick one. And then we go through skills after that. So that can be anything from, you know, damp wiping a table all the way up to dealing with a biohazard. After that, we do accredited trainer, which is where you're trained by BICS on how to train, you know, all different walks of life, how to deal with different coaching styles, different training styles, things like that. And we do that all around the world. So it's how to deal with like language barriers, everything like that, get the best out of the training. And then we have the assessor license, which is where they have an ability to accredit staff.
Okay.
So they're like the keepers of the institute's aims. So you can train it and assess your staff if you become an accredited training member.
Do you find that companies since COVID have increased their focus on things like staff training?
Yeah, I think there was always a want by companies in the industry, but I think, you know, the clients that they've got want more to do with clean. Yeah, they want to see the cleaning operatives out there. They want that stamp of approval. And they want to recognise people. I think what we saw, you know, during the pandemic was that people were like, oh my gosh, this person's not here, or they've not cleaned this. And that people started getting respect even on their site. So I think there's a lot more client, you know, engagement, and people are being able to actually put some of their money now into more training, which is great to see.
Yeah, I think, you know, I always say from us, what's the difference between us as a cleaning company and because we've got a cleaning company next door to our office, funny enough, you know, and all the USP stuff, we're environmentally friendly. Well, every cleaning company is trying to do that. Customers want that ESG piece. So everyone's trying to do that. Oh, well, we use the latest kit. Well, everyone keeps an eye. What is the great separator? And I think it's about how you treat and train your staff. And that's the only separator really between a good and bad company. Do you get a lot of SMEs involved now, or do you find it's mainly the big guys?
I think, the bigger guys are always going to be involved. SMEs are, and we're especially within BICS. Obviously, I can't talk about other traded companies because I'm not there. I don't know what they're doing in house and things. But we've made things a lot more accessible for people, and it's quite clear that anybody can do it. We've got courses that are free. Yeah, I mean, I've even had my family doing it. Like, get on it. You want to understand what my job is? Here you go. Get yourself color coding online. And I think when you make things a lot more accessible, and obviously with how the industry's changing, a lot more companies are being able to do that. So we are getting people, even domestic clean operatives that are one man shows that are being able to come and get accredited. It's amazing because I think it's becoming a lot more, the industry is working together a lot more than it ever has done before. And I agree. I think that's what's getting the SMEs and even people that wouldn't even call themselves an SME involved with that. Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier about traveling a lot. So would you say that the UK cleaning market is a leader in terms of actual cleaning and training? Because obviously BICS is based in the UK. You're helping companies across the globe now, not even the UK, develop cleaning training so that they're doing it correctly and we know it's done right. Tell us a little bit about that and what impact you think that's having.
In the UK?
No, worldwide.
Worldwide. But obviously all over the world, there's loads of different training companies, like institutes and things like that. But I think there's that movement, the same as what we've seen in the UK where people are getting recognised. I think in other companies, things are being, done for like contractual things and that USP part. But people are moving up and being able to get into higher roles that they didn't necessarily think were possible before. Yeah. And I think in a lot of countries, it is becoming a professional, it's been recognised to be the professional thing that it is. It's a professional career.
That's great to see, right?
Yeah, it's amazing to see. And, you speak to people that, they didn't get the chance to go to school or they didn't get the chance to go to college or whatever, and they've got cousins that were doctors and things like that, but they've got these amazing fruitful careers where they're doing just as well. Yeah. And it's because of different training they've had along the way, like they might have had BICS, they've had IOSH, NEBOSH, and all of these things have added together where they're able to move around to different countries or able to just develop, you've got people setting up their own companies, which is incredible.
That's great to see.
It's amazing to see the development, I've been at BICS over 2 years, just over 2 years. And from the first trip where I went, where I met amazing people, and obviously you remember people, and now they're setting up by themselves where they were a training coordinator. Even next week when I go, there's people that have started their own academy within a company or have started their own company. And you think that's 2 years, but they got that assessor license, let's say, and now they're able to go ahead and start their own company.
Do you think that gives people a sense of approval of right, I really know what I'm talking about now. Yeah. And that gives me, for the want of a better phrase, that gives me the authority to go out to market on my own.
Yeah, it's knowledge, knowledge is power.
Yeah, of course.
And you hear them talking, at the start of the training, you can see, you always get here we go.
Here we go, another tick box.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden they're able to talk to, their CEOs in their company and say do you know what? I know what I'm on about. I am a specialist in what I'm talking about. Yeah. And they're able to go out to new markets and share knowledge with new customers and things like that. It's amazing. I was at a site, I think February time, and there was someone really high up in an airport. And one of the guys that we just trained was telling them all about how to strip a floor properly and giving them all of the science behind things. And it was just watching it thinking, this is the power of what we do. This is incredible. He stood there at the start of the week, a bit panicked about things, not knowing things. And now he stood there and you would not think that in the space of a week that had happened. But it's just that consolidation that, I do know what I'm talking about. And actually this is a professional thing. Yeah. And people want this knowledge.
Yeah. So you've had, in a short time, it's still relatively short time, you've got people that have been in the industry 20, 30, 40 years plus. I always ask all the guests, is there a particular time in your industry or a particular event that you really look back on fondly, that you remember? I look back at our first 6-figure contract. You know, they're big milestones. Is there a particular event that you really look back on fondly that you remember all the time, or that you reached all the time? Or has there been so many?
There's been, I've had some great moments where I've like rung up even the office and been like, I love my job. Yeah. I absolutely love what I'm doing. And like, I think I don't ever dread a Monday, which is a good thing.
That's good, definitely.
I think the first time that I ever thought like, wow, there's like a difference been made here. I had this lady that I used to like supervise, manage, and we'd not got on. I'll just say it that way. There wasn't any animosity there. It was just, obviously I was very new into my role, and the last thing you want is someone coming to tell you what to do. However nice they might be saying it, when you've worked somewhere for a very long amount of time and someone's coming in and explaining things. And we were doing the BICS training and assessment, and I saw her name on my sheet and I thought, here we go.
God, oh no.
Here we go. I'm thinking in my head, she's going to pass.
Yeah.
She's got to pass. Please let her pass. So we did it, and she was unsuccessful. I was thinking, oh no. And there was a lady that she didn't quite get on with either, but they worked together, and you'd get phone calls day after day that one of them had walked off somewhere, or, you know, there'd been a bit of a tiff. And I got a phone call one day. They're both not in their area. I was thinking, oh no, there's something happened. She's just been unsuccessful. So I went running up, nowhere to be seen. So I thought, right, so gloves on, PPE on, whatever. Started cleaning, thinking, you know, the job still needs to be done. Yeah. You know, I'll send someone off to try and find them. Went to go into the cleaning cupboard to go and, you know, get my stuff out. And there was 2 operatives stood there taking apart a vacuum. The next thing Kelsey will want you to do in your assessment is this. And they were working together, showing each other to get each other ready for their assessment. And I thought, 1.5 years, I've been dreading these 2 working together. And here they are with a shared vested interest in both getting this qualification. Yeah. And it was just like, oh, the next day they had their assessment and she passed. And the other lady that had been, you know, this feud had been with for years was stood outside waiting to get the results for this woman. She walked out, she's like, I passed. Yeah. I just remember going home, like, I've had the best day. And it was just, again, through all of the stuff that happened through the pandemic, to have that one moment of seeing people come together and seeing just how much, you know, they wanted that qualification and they got what they deserved, and that it not only impacted their working lives, impacted like professional friendships that they have, and that people were holding each other up. And I think that's the first time that I saw in the industry, obviously now I get to see it a lot more, but I'd seen in the industry that we all are part of a bigger thing, and that people do care about each other, even if it feels like the outside doesn't really respect what we are as an industry, that we all are part of a bigger thing. And
I think one thing that the industry does give you is camaraderie. I think I've said that before, and that's clearly evident with there, especially if you're going through the same training process and you're working towards that one goal. Because that's what we're doing at the end of the day. We're trying to keep built environments safe and clean and tidy. Of course, you're going to get disagreements with people, haven't you? They can't get on with everybody. But on the flip side of that, and obviously COVID is sort of a go-to point for most people, it's a tough industry. It can be tough at times. You know, pressure from customers. You've got deadlines to meet. Especially in your field where you're trying to get people through training on volume as well. You know, so people don't realise that hospitals, they have hundreds of cleaning staff. You know, potentially per day in some examples. Is there a particular point, a low point that you've had within the industry that you can recall?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, COVID is obviously the go-to one, and being in that environment, there was definitely some weeks and days that probably will stick out forever. I think.
Did you ever think of giving up?
No, I think because of that, like, team effort, you don't want to abandon your team. You know, there was definitely days where I thought, what on earth am I doing? Like, why are we all going through this kind of stress? But I think people always say, you know, like, what made you stay so long? And like other friends that I've had that work there, or, you know, in any part of the industry, what made you stay? And it's always the people. Yeah. You know, you don't want to leave your team. There was weeks that were ridiculously difficult. You know, people forget that, you know, there was people passing away everywhere, and that happened in teams as well. So, you know, you're in an environment where you're watching that all the time, and then it's happening within the teams that you're working with. And it was ridiculously difficult.
Yeah. I remember working we wasn't in any hospitals, but we work with a large care provider. And even just for me, I was out, you know, it was like sort of all uncharted territory. So it was sort of all hands to deck, and I was sort of even back on the tools for a little bit. Very few and far between these days, but, you know, just getting stuck in. And we would work at large care homes, and you'd go there and there'd be, you know, it would all be locked down and you'd be doing your cleaning, etc. But like even from day to day, you'd go there and, you know, someone that you'd been with yesterday had passed away during the night or whatever. And it was a difficult time. And I can see why, especially in a hospital, it must have been. Yeah,
it was the patients, but then we had like members of like, obviously that worked at the hospital. And you're trying to keep up morale and be like, come on, guys, you're the heroes, you're doing amazing. Still needing to get the job done. But obviously also at the same time having to deal with the aftermath of what was happening. It was hard, but I think, you know, I think that showed what the teams were about, you know, whether it was a hospital, anywhere else in the industry, that we all got through it together and that we're still thriving as an industry.
I just can't fathom in my own head how we've gone from that back to, you know, because I think we're back to pre-COVID in terms of our visibility, respect that people give us as an industry. And when I actually sit and talk about it, and especially people that have been in live scenarios like you have at a hospital, I just think, how have we got there?
Yeah.
I still can't get my head around that piece, to be honest, how we've slipped back to there. But that could be a whole podcast in itself. So if someone's looking to try and get into the industry, what steps would you recommend they take to get into the industry?
I think have a look online, have a look at different training that's available, you know, juice up your CV with industry related things.
And like you say, there's lots of free stuff out there.
There's loads of free stuff out there. We're working at the moment to obviously make all of that a lot more accessible. Just have a look, you know, look on like company websites, like cleaning company websites, even just Google like, you know, cleaning companies, and have a look what they're saying. You know, I remember reading a CV a couple of years ago thinking, what on earth is COSH? What is COSH? What is this word that keeps on popping up? And obviously if you don't understand something, you're less likely to apply for it. Of course. But the thing is, in a lot of ways, like these companies that you want to apply for have got training in place, whether it's, you know, out external accredited or whether it's internal, in-house. There is something there. But yeah, just have a good Google, research, ask questions. You know, if people ring up these companies, they will help.
Yeah.
We are, as an industry, pushing to get, you know, the next generation or even add to the people that we've got. And people do want to talk. So, you know, ask the questions.
I think if someone actually rang us up looking for employment and was, you know, keenly asking them questions, I think especially with the employment landscape at the moment, you know, you do all that. You'd give anyone that training and knowledge because because obviously cost regulations and things like that, it's part of your health and safety anyway. But someone just showing a keen interest in that would be a massive win for me straight away.
Yeah.
And like you say, there's so many free resources out there, isn't there, to go through. So back to the youth employment thing. What are the plans? What plans have you got with that, trying to attract more young people in?
So we're starting a youth employment webpage. Okay. Basically going through what we've talked about, you know, like you're interested in being a cleaning operative. Have a look at the different parts of the industry. What part of the industry do you think that you would like to be a part of? You know, you've got this skill, it relates to this part. And also showing all of the roles that we don't really think about, you know, like we've got like digital marketing assistants, things like that. Different apprenticeships within chemical companies or engineering companies that are all part of it. Or you're coming in with a sales degree or finance degree. Why not look in these roles? And that we are, I think it's called like one industry, infinite opportunity, that there's so many different ways.
I think that's such a true saying as well.
Yeah. So it's all about being a lot more out there and being like, okay, this is what you've got. Let us help you like turn this into something, you know, like with links to like free training or training that they can pay for, you know, with whatever company. It's not all about BICS. It's about the industry and helping the industry. It's a lot more visual. I mean, I love a good book, but I would not sit and read a web page for 2 hours. No. I want to listen to somebody talk about their role. And if after 5 minutes, I think that's not for me, I can go on to the next one. Yeah. So we're doing a lot of stuff like that, getting a lot more involved with Youth Employment UK. You know, we've been involved with sharing the census. So every year they do a census, which is great for us because we get a lot of information as an industry of where young people are at. So we've been involved with sharing all of that. And in September, I'm going to be there explaining to members of the Parliament and the public what that census says and what it means for different employers in loads of different industries. But just, getting the youth voice out there, you know, in different like industry magazines that we have. You saw at the conference, we've been given places to talk about youth employment, which is great.
I listened to your last show.
Yeah, I remember seeing you in the audience. But yeah, just getting it out there and keeping it going. You know, we need to keep it going outside of the industry and inside to make sure that this is something we keep following up, because we need the next generation.
Yeah. How do you find, out of interest, I asked this of Jim Melvin because he does a lot with Parliament as well. How do you find that process? Do you feel like that's being listened to when you're speaking in front of Parliament and things like that?
I mean, in my sense, I'm quite lucky because obviously it's done for Youth Employment UK, and as the body that they are, they get interest. Yeah. I think it's nice to be able to be put in the position there and being like, this is what I think, and this is the industry that I'm from, and it's been quite nice that you've got the BCC doing all of this amazing work and we're still managing in all of the other ways to be like, we're still here, but this time I'm with Youth Employment UK, or this time I'm with this. Yeah,
popping up in different avenues in different rooms.
You know, linking, I did one last year on mental health in young people and talked about my experience as a young person, and then talked about the industry and managed to weave it in and be like, you know, we are forgotten about, but we are dealing with things and just getting our name out there. But it's nice, and I think it does lead on to other avenues because there are other people there that want to listen to what's being said. You know, people like the Department of Education and stuff like that, where it's always nice to have people keeping an ear into the conversations that we're trying to have.
So what's coming up with the youth employment stuff? You got any more talks coming up that you mentioned?
Oh, wow.
You remember off the top of your head?
I think there's one in December at a conference. There's a few things for Youth Employment UK. Yeah. We're doing some webinars and things like that. And then as the webpage is launched, there'll be a lot of talks around that, mainly webinars, how people can get involved in the industry, which is great. They pop up, you know, all over the place. But yeah, we do a lot of articles and things like that and different voices now. Yeah. We're trying to get, you know, I am young, but I'm not the only young person. Yeah, of course. So trying to get different voices, you know, different parts of the industry, different roles, and just keep that dialogue going.
Being a representative for the young people within the industry, do you come a lot? Are you coming across more younger people in the industry?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was at the CSSA event at the Savoy.
Yes.
And I was walking out running for the tube, and this guy came over to me and said, "Kelsey," and I was like,
I don't. It depends who's asking.
I have no idea who this is. And he was young, and I was like, "Here we go." Yeah. And he said, "I've read all of your stuff, and I actually met you last year. I think I'd been at a site, probably judging an award, and I'd obviously walked past and said hello." Yeah. And even when I stood there in the Savoy, I was like looking around, thinking, "I'm not the only young one. I actually fit in." That's cool. It's not like, oh, there she is. Like, there's the young one. I was like looking around, like, this is great.
The only one.
Yeah, I feel like in it, and we're seeing like a lot of people on sites, like managers and supervisors, where, you know, it's always a weird experience because I think whenever I go to site, they're not going to expect my age when I show up. And there's been a few times now that I walk in and I'm like, "Oh, you're the same age as me. This is, you know, out of the norm," but it's great. It's really good to see, even that's in the space of 2 years. So.
Yeah, it's good to see it coming that way, because I had the same experience as you. When I started in the industry, I was quite fortunate enough that I built some good relationships with people that I was working with and managed to progress relatively quickly. So in my early 20s, I was at what would be considered in the industry a relatively senior position. And you'd go in meetings and you could just see the eyes like, who is this guy? Yeah. And that was 20 years ago. So it's good that it's coming on and we're slowly getting younger, because at the end of the day, you know, as fantastic as the people are with all the experience at the top of the industry, you know, these people are edging towards retirement, or they're going to be moving on, or whatever it may be. And if we haven't got skill set coming through, we're just going to carry on being in that same space where we're just undervalued. Yeah. Whereas if we've got people that want to shout about the industry, which I see a lot more people doing, there's a lot more people doing social media stuff, which is good, shouting about. You're obviously doing your work with Youth Employment and BICS, which is fantastic to see. That's the only way we're going to get talent into the industry now. Because I remember when Adam first started, and I said, you know, what do you do for you know, and what do you do in your spare time, like entertainment wise? And I was like, do you watch telly or think? No, you know, a lot of it is social and that more technical side of things. And if we're not shouting about our industry over in that space, we're just going to be missing out on so much talent, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's good to see. And thank you for your work that you do with Youth Employment. I think it's fantastic. I'm a big fan of it, as you can see when I'm waving at you during your speeches. So what's next for you personally? What you got planned?
I I don't know. Just keep
Apart
going.
from travelling.
Just keep going with the youth employment stuff until I'm not considered youth anymore.
Yeah, well, you've got plenty of years left.
Yeah, just keep going. I think I've definitely taken a journey in this industry that I didn't expect to take, and you don't know what's in the future. But as long as I get to keep on helping people, that's all I really care about. So yeah, just keep doing what I'm doing, and
You think your future is in the industry?
Yeah, I'm not leaving. Definitely. I remember when I was like a year in, and my current manager said to me, "How long have you been working at the hospital?" And I said, "About a year." And she was like, "You're in this for life. If you can handle a year in the world as it is at the moment in the industry, you're in the industry." She was like, "You obviously love it." And now I could never think about going back to what I did like in my uni life. You know, it's there. I've got the expensive bits of paper, but I don't want to go back to that. I'm in the industry.
Oh, that's interesting. And I know you mentioned about people saying, "Oh, well, I fell into the industry," and I understand what the sentiment you were saying. But you do find it once people that come into the industry, they stay. Yeah. So there must be a law there somewhere. We've got to be doing something right, haven't we? Yeah. At the end of the day. Well, Kelsey, I don't have any more questions, and thank you for your time today. You mentioned about the youth employment and BICS. What websites can people find that information at?
So at the moment on the BICS website, there's loads of stuff in The Standard, which is our magazine about all youth top tips. And then Watch This Space, all on LinkedIn, social media. It will all be coming out soon.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, that wraps up another interesting episode for you younger viewers. And I say the industry is a fantastic industry for people of all ages. And you can literally go anywhere across the UK and across the world like Kelsey does if you're very fortunate. I'm hoping to get an invite at some point. As always, hit that like and subscribe button for us, guys, if you're watching on YouTube and all your favourite podcast platforms. Make sure you give us a follow and leave us a review. We're getting some fantastic numbers now. It's really growing, and we're having more fantastic guests like Kelsey coming up soon. So, Kelsey, thank you again, and we'll check you guys in the next episode.